This is the director's commentary to accompany my Preston Park brief, in which we'll feature representative images of the park for a brochure showing the features, the facilities and the natural beauty of the space, which is a rockery with some very unusual trees, and I've actually shot here before. The goal of the brochure is to encourage more people to visit the park, and the end goal will be to accompany a video. Now, in the first shot, there's a wide shot which I took an image in a warm tone and one image in a cool tone, and then in the editing I had to adjust the white balance. Now this can be done by sliding the saturation from blue tones to warm tones. You can remove the saturation, apply more contrast. Basically, when it's a cloudy day, you can add more warmth to the picture, or if it's too orangey, can also neutralise by adding the white balance. Next, the medium close-up shot was supposed to be head and shoulders, but unfortunately I didn't really capture any medium close-ups of people. I took a picture of some lads on the bench, which is a nice shot, but it didn't contain any kind of blurred background. To get a shot with a blurred background, you have to create a shallow depth of field. So I took a photo of my hand as the subject in medium close-up and blurred the background to the shot. This can be done usually by adjusting the f-stops for faster shutter speed, to freeze an image, and by adjusting the aperture from a low stop to a high stop. Low stops make the subject in focus with the background blurred, often represented by people, and on my camera it goes from people to mountains, so you adjust the wheel to to have the background, i.e. mountains, in focus, or the foreground, the subject, in focus with the background blurred. This is done through opening the iris of the lens and creates depth. So I took the image of the lad sat on the bench and used that instead. First, I used the crop tool to give it a 1:1 ratio, which is a square, rather than 3:4, which is the image we were working on. There are different types of shot sizes. I was recently working on a 16:9, thinking that was the movie width. Then we pen tooled around the faces to highlight the flesh, and use the curves, using the curve controls in the effects to warm up the skin tone by dragging on the curve itself. Then the action shot, emphasising any movement. I originally took a photo of a jogger, which freeze framed the jogger himself, but I'd have liked to have caught a kind of blurred sports image to compare with an actual sports image, which are taken at a higher frame per second. I learnt that this is actually more like 60 frames per second, whereas to create motion blur or more blur, the frames per second go down to, well, cinematic is 24 frames per second, which surprised me. So at the rockery there was a waterfall, and I decided to capture the waterfall to show the kind of opposite of the jogger. The waterfall is then caught because it's much faster than the frames per second. Then we made the image black and white by removing all the saturation. Photographs of the backlit tree compared with the sidelit tree. Quite often you're taking photos looking up at the sky with the background, and the sun behind the tree creates a more dramatic black silhouetted outline of the branches, particularly during winter. This is all very well, but sometimes this is too dramatic effect. The lighting of a video, lighting of an image can really affect how the audience reacts. The kind of spooky black and white, backlit trees. I took several shots like that, but didn't really use them. And then I took several pictures of sort of trees, but with like the bark and the background blurred. But to suit the brief, I had a few closer images of the same tree, which I've boosted to give the picture the brightest kind of most colour saturated while still looking natural. There's a lot of play for messing around with images to get them exactly how you want, but it's best to capture as much as you can in the first shots. You can always take stuff away, but you can't really add to an image. There are various tools. In this, I used the curves as well as the basic correction tools for contrast, exposure, light, saturation, lights, darks, contrast, and then there are several images to represent themes of peace, community, and oasis. I settled on another nice view of the rockery, which is indeed a peaceful oasis away from the joggers and the cyclists and the general noise of the city.